That's right. Here we go. That's right. Jason Michaels, TV episode number 9. Welcome, everybody. Very pleased to have you. We're broadcasting from Nashville, Tennessee. This is the show that combines inspiration and amazement. I guess I should be show you the official Jason Michaels TV slate, because we haven't started an episode yet if we don't actually show the slate. So, all right, it is official now that we have started episode 9. I'm excited that you guys are joining me today. I have a fantastic special guest. I met this gentleman a couple of years ago. We actually met through a mutual friend. We kind of met, we did sort of the online connecting, and then he had me on a podcast that he does, which we'll talk about in a second. He's a super nice guy. His name is Peter Margaritis. He's a professional speaker. He is a podcaster and author. He's an improv virtuoso. He was very kind to me when I was at the National Speaker Association's Influence Conference, and he introduced me around and to a bunch of people last year. And but anyway, I want to introduce him to you. Let's meet him now, my friend Peter Margaritis. Hey man, how's it going?
Oh man, I'm so excited about being on your show, dude. I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
Well, you know, I really enjoyed being on your podcast, and I appreciate you doing that a couple of years ago, especially because I was working hard to promote my book, and you know how important this is that we do this, we do those types of rounds, and that's how we kind of got to know each other a little bit in the first place. So, big thank you for coming on the show. And I want to just dive right into it. So
let's do it.
So here's the deal. I had met you, but so I decided, okay, let's reintroduce yourself, Peter, to Jason. So I went on your website. I looked at some of your stuff. I kind of made sure I remembered everything about you correctly. You're actually an entertainment guy. Like, you have entertainment like in your heart and soul, but what's interesting is that you're one of the few entertainers who did the smart thing, and you said, oh, I better get a career first. So tell me about that.
Oh, I've always kind of been a funny guy. I love comedy. I love making people laugh. That's why I get joy making people laugh. Yeah. And then I found stand up, and I realized I couldn't make people laugh. Okay. Well, it took me a while. I kind of going through that, but I always probably want to be more of an entertainer than a businessman, but I also like money, and kind of realized early on, especially since I kind of got into the entertainment side later in life, that I like cash flow. But I figured if I can take my humor and the improv and have a business application for it, then that would be the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've done. That's what I've been able to do. And I call myself the CEO of my organization, which stands for Chief Edutainment Officer.
Chief Edutainment. So that would be a combination of education and entertainment.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think anytime we're in front of an audience, we're trying to teach them something. We're sharing information to them that they can act on it. And if I can't entertain them, then they'll fall asleep. If I just go do a data, because I'm a CPA, but as you can see behind me, says the accidental accountant.
Because you got to tell me more about this, because to me, just hold on for a second. But look, no offense, don't take this the wrong way, but so there's my entertainment brain, and then there's my math and science brain, and those things in my head do not go together well. How in the world were you smart enough and numbers oriented enough to become an accountant, a CPA, and you also have this improv chops? Can you even explain that to me?
I'm a good test taker.
You're a good test taker. Okay.
I'm a good test taker. I can study, and I learned how to study. I learned how I learned accounting. I studied it. I did it. But when it came time to really do the real work, I wasn't good. I was terrible. Most accountants, they love detail. They love numbers. They like getting into that minutia. I didn't like going into that land. I was much more of a big picture guy. I'm Greek American, so I should be in a restaurant, but I learned all these customer service skills growing up from the age of 12. and how to communicate with people. And I became an accountant, and it was a little bit different. And actually, during one of my performance reviews, my boss said to me, "How in the heck did you ever become a CPA? CPAs can get down into all that detail. I can get you about halfway. You're an accidental accountant." So,
and boom, you held
and
on
boom,
to
I've trademarked it, made a name of my business. But I asked her, I said, "When you want something done in this building, who do you ask to go get it done?" And her response was, "Well, you, Pete, because your cheeks are never in the seat like most accountants." And I stepped back. I said, "That's not the reason, because I've networked my way around this building because there's a stereotype about CPAs that we're boring, that we can't communicate. And anytime one shows up, they're here to tell me no." So in order for us to get information out of other departments, we need to meet them and become peers and possibly become friends and have a relationship. So there's this thing called trust. And then I can get anything out of them. I'm not Pete the CPA. "Oh, here comes Pete. Sit down. What's going on? What do you need?"
Yeah.
So that's how all of that came about.
Something tells me like you took like a lemon and you turned it to lemonade. When she called you the accidental accountant, it doesn't sound like that was like, was that a compliment at the time, or was it?
It was not a compliment at all.
Yeah.
It was not a compliment
And
at all.
later on, you said, "She just named my new business. I love it."
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. So, okay. So, all right. So tell me about getting into improv comedy, because I'm an entertainer at heart. I'm a businessman really second, but an entertainer at heart. And so like it really, your story of falling in love with comedy and whatnot, it connects with me. So tell me about that.
I was here in Columbus, Ohio, and I was doing stand-up, open mic nights and stuff, kind of working on the chops and stuff. And one of the guys doing open mic, he was part of Second City, Cleveland, which lasted for about a millisecond in the Cleveland marketplace. And he goes, "Why don't you show up to our improv workshop I'm doing on Monday nights? You might find it to be fun." So I showed up. I thought we were going to be, writing stuff, and there was this different feel. We were playing these games, these exercises. They're fun. They were kind of silly, and I didn't get it. But the more I went back this is what happened. So as the workshop ended, he said, "All right, guys, go study the 70s for next week. The whole theme of next week's workshop is going to be about the 70s." And then he said, "If you lived in the 70s, you might as well study it because you probably don't remember it." Okay, so, which was true. So I did the homework. And then next week that I came in, I was funny because I did the homework. Those who weren't funny at all. And that was that big aha moment when I realized improv is not about making stuff up. Improv is about the ability to take our education, our experiences, everything we know, and learn to apply it. And
so you know what? Okay, hang on. I apologize because I didn't. There might be probably not a lot, but there might be some people who are unfamiliar with really exactly what improv is and how it works. I mean, they've heard of Saturday Night Live or whatever. Give me the definition. What's the difference between stand-up comedy and improv comedy?
Stand-up comedy is a script. Stand-up comedy has a formula. Okay, premise, punchline, tag. Improv, there's no script.
So it's more in the moment.
It's very much in the moment. You have to be present in the moment. You have to be an excellent listener. Because if you're thinking about something else and somebody in the scene with you says something, you're going to give the bad response because you haven't paid attention. And in improv, we rely on what we know. It's not making stuff. Jason, if you want me to make stuff up, I'll do the whole rest of this TV interview on how to do your taxes in tax accounting. I haven't done mine. I've messed it up, and that's making stuff up. Improv helps you think on your feet a lot quicker. It gives you a lot of confidence. And once I can get someone to realize that it really is a leadership tool and not something to be funny with, Then their light goes on, and that's when I go, this is perfect. Now they're getting the understanding. But as I say, but still to this day, and people who have known me for a long time, I was on I did a small presentation the other day for a group of CPAs, and I've known this CEO forever, and he kind of introduced me as a comedian.
That's funny.
I'm not a comedian. I'll take a humorist, but I'm not a comedian.
Yeah. So improvisation, improv comedy is typically performed. You said scene. You have other people that are performing it with you. Usually.
Yes.
So is it true that improv is really only as good as the worst person on the stage with you, or the least? Because I know that there are sort of some rules to improv comedy, like you follow some there's a little bit of guideline here and there as far as how to create a good scene and how the two people can react off of each other to create a really funny moment for an audience that was created right then at that moment. But how good do the other people have to be? Can you take someone who's a novice and get and have a good scene with them?
As long as they understand, if anything, just this one thing. It's two words. One thing is yes and.
Okay. What is that?
In improv, so in improv, you accept what the other person gives you and you add on to it.
Okay.
So this is what was my hardest part for me. I was doing this scene, called it Two Lines, and the guy goes, "What a great day to be fishing." And I went, "Fishing? We're at the track betting on the horses." I just negated him.
So like you shot it down.
Yeah, I shot his idea down. Versus, what a great day to be fishing. Absolutely. And you want another beer.
Okay.
So in improv, it's about accepting what someone gives you as a gift.
Okay.
And adding on to it. Okay. And keeping that in mind, just that one piece, you'll be one of the stronger ones in improv. Because that's what holds it all together.
Okay. I like that. That it strikes me that is very much like life. I mean, yes. You kind of have to accept. I mean, I guess technically you don't have to accept what comes into your life, but I mean, it's what comes into your life, and you have to react to it.
When saw this happening, I haven't said I can't wait till we get back to a pre-COVID-19, because I don't think that's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I hear you.
And every morning we get up and something has changed, and an improviser can adapt to any given situation at any point in time, and let go of what yesterday was and keep moving forward on today, and then the next day and the next day. But we're all human; we all have our down days. Sure. But the up days and that mindset, gets us through very difficult times like this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So we're talking about. So what you're really talking about is a life skill that allows you to react better to the. I guess what the buzzword is right now is uncertain times that we're in. That's what everybody's talking about. But isn't that just true for life itself? Life itself. You have all sorts of interesting things that come into your life and that you have to deal with. You have to change. You have to make adjustments to. So yeah. So it sounds like improvisation is a good technique. So tell me, you mentioned about it in the business settings or leadership. How do you teach? How do you use improv to teach people how to become better leaders? In organizations and I don't know, I guess probably like even in a family, you have leaders in a family. How does that work?
Keeping the yes and mentality, but also the superpowers here is the ability to listen. And there's two types of listening: listening to respond and listening to understand. Listening to respond is having some preconceived bias in your head. When you're talking to another person, you just completely tuning them out until it's time for you to speak. Listening to respond is interrupting somebody mid-sentence or even before mid-sentence and injecting your own thoughts and opinions. Listening to understand is taking that agenda, suspending our judgment, parking our ego over here, and actually listening to the person and what they are trying to communicate to us, showing empathy. And then instead of saying, there are many different ways of saying no, but if you say, yes, and can you tell me more about what you're thinking, and get them going down this positive path, and then having that dialogue back and forth versus, no, we can't do that. No, it's not in the budget. No, you can't leave early. You want to leave early, so tell me why. And yes, well, I've got to do this. And can you make up this time? I read a stat once that 73% of people leave work because lack of appreciation.
You mean like quit work?
Yeah, quit work. Yes, yeah. Quit work. And just by the sheer chance of listening to somebody, and they know that you're listening to them, they know they're being heard, that lack of appreciation goes away, because we get empowered when we listen, when we know we're being heard. That's one of the pieces there. The other one in improv, kind of the foundation, goes to respect. Jason, I have a lot of respect for you, and I like you. Okay. Now there's people in our lives that we have respect for, and we don't like them, but that's fine. It's still respect. And we have a situation right now that neither side respects each other, and that's called Congress.
You're not wrong.
And no, we're not getting anything done.
Right.
We're not getting. It's just bicker and fight. It's more, as I relate to it, it's more about that's ego leadership. Improv is about, I'm not that important as the leader. The team comes first. I'm second. Teams win. Yes. When the team fails, it's my fault as the leader. I don't pass blame. I take that on myself. When my team wins, look at the great job that they've done.
Wow.
It's all about them. It's not about me. And it's the opposite of ego leadership. Stephen Colbert interviewed Keegan-Michael Keel. It's probably about 18 to 24 months. They had this conversation about improv and about show business, where in show business, it's all about me. So I watched this and I went, okay, it's like ego leadership. In ego leadership, it's about me. But improv is just the complete opposite of that. And it fosters such a cool culture within organizations that adopt that type of mindset.
I love the fact that you use the word empathy, and I also like respect, but I really am huge on empathy, because I think that, because I guess being someone who grew up with Tourette syndrome, I learned how to be very empathetic towards others, being able to see how, the things that I did or the things that happened in the world affected their feelings. And so I'm really big on feeling the way other people feel, understanding why they feel a certain way, how a certain situation is going to make them feel. So I think that's just a huge thing. And I can see why that would be a powerful technique for, because you're really talking about sort of a synergy with the team where everybody was working together.
Right. And think about that empathy aspect. So when you showed up to Influence last year, that was your first Influence, I believe.
Yeah, it was first, which is the National Speakers Association's big conference that they do annually.
About 1,200 people show up.
Yeah.
And I remember my first Influence. And it was like drinking water from a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody. I knew a couple people, but they were introverts. And so when I found out that you were there, we connected. I wanted to try to introduce you as many people as possible, because that's part of the power of Influence, is that networking aspect, and then let you follow up with them. So I was empathizing with, oh, it's his first time here. All right, let's start introducing them around. Yeah,
and you did. You sure did. And it was great, because you invited me to have dinner with you one night,
right?
With a banquet. And it was great. It was really great. I really only knew I knew two people. I knew of, kind of had very peripheral sort of relationships with a few other people, but yeah, it was really good. So I very much appreciated that.
It's
Yeah.
kind of intimidating walking in there for the first time when you've got a bunch of speakers.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
yeah. If you threw a microphone in the middle of the room, they'd fight for hours for a thing.
You know what's funny about that is that, like I'm a little bit more introverted, like in a social setting when it's just me, just kind of hanging out in low key mode. Now, if you tell me, "Hey, Jason, go take over the room," that's a different. Go take it. But if it's just me, so yeah, I'm not necessarily the most outgoing in situations like that. But I really did enjoy. I did enjoy myself, and I enjoyed getting to know some people. And if anybody's interested in. The National Speakers Association is a fantastic group of people, very business oriented, very oriented on growing the profession and getting better and better at it. So their influence conference is excellent. So
yeah, it's a great learning environment. Last year, there wasn't very many breakout sessions that I wanted to attend.
Mm-hmm.
And I networked my way through the trade show. I met some of the board who I introduced myself, had a conversation. I saw some people I hadn't seen in a while. And I met Jeannie Robertson, who I've always wanted to meet.
That's cool.
Very funny lady. And somebody asked me, one of the board members asked me, said, "How do you like the conference? How do you like the breakout sessions?" I said, "Well, those are two different questions. I love the conference. I'm getting a lot out of it. I'm really not happy with the breakout sessions, but I don't care because the hallway conversations go a long way. And I brought my microphone and recorded, grabbed 3 or 4 people and did some podcast interviews while I was there."
Let's talk about your podcast. There's one other thing. We'll do that. We'll go there next. But there's one other thing that I made a note for myself when you were talking, and the thing that I think I connect the most to improv on is the experience that I have when I am doing a show, or even a speech, some sort of a live program. It's not exactly the same, but the give and take with the audience. See, in the past, you see, I was trained as an actor. When I was in high school and college, I was trained as an actor. So what I am used to is give me a script. You learn the script. You dissect the script. You understand where the beats are and the motivations and stuff like that. But for a very long time, I wasn't. I was very rigid when it and very hesitant when it came to doing things with audience members from the platform or from the stage, because the moment that you introduce another person into a program that doesn't have a script, who knows what's going to happen?
That's right, man. But yeah, you're walking into the unknown, but you're also bringing the audience in.
It's fun.
That is the fun, but it's also the fear too.
Right.
And in improv, we call it follow the fear, because they'll take you to magical places. And now you've got the audience member, and you're showing some vulnerability in doing that, but you're also coming across very confident, and you can handle anything because you've been improvising all your life. You just don't realize it sometimes, but you have the chops.
Very fascinating point. That's a fascinating point, is that when people think they can't do improv, stop for a second. Life is improv. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, yes. You've been improvising since, really, to some degree, once you're able to walk and start talking.
Yeah.
We kind of learned this over time, and I equated to the day my son was born. And then we were in the hospital for a couple of days, and then we took him home, and I put him in the back of the car and put him in his car seat, and I drove home like doing maybe 20 miles an hour. And we get home and go, "Honey, did you get the manual? What do we do now?
What do we do with this
kid? What do we do?" And I said, well, when something went wrong, when he would get sick, and if we could figure it out, I'd always call my parents. We'd look it up and try to figure out, find that knowledge so we can apply it in those situations. We're all improvisers.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's take a peek at Okay. Oh, well, before we bounce over to your podcast, okay, dude, you're okay. Let me just give you some credit here because you have written not just a book, you've written multiple books. And I took the project on of writing a book like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And so I know what that feels like. I know how much discipline and effort goes into writing a book. Tell me about your books, man. This is very impressive to me.
If you would have told me 10, 12, 20 years ago that I would have written a book,
Yeah.
I would have called you crazy. When I told my friends that I'd written a book, they thought they asked me, did it come with crayons? I got to find better friends. But when you join the National Speakers Association here, you need to write a book, and I don't have a book in me. But improv was such and still is such a big part of my life. I found a publisher who was able to get this out of my head, who helped me get it out of my head onto paper and into a book. And it was, my mother, for a solid year after my book came out, I'd like to introduce you to my son. He's an author.
Oh,
here's my son, the author. The second book, I'm just my son. Yeah, he's my son. So I got it all out onto paper, as you well know, huge accomplishment.
Sure.
And then came, how do I sell a book? And that's a whole other aspect, marketing of it. Right. And the second book, Taking the Numb Out of Numbers, came out of frustration. I used to be that presenter who would present data, facts, and figures like I was giving a dissertation. I was watching my audience fall asleep, and this goes back 15, 20 years ago. So there has to be a better way to do it. That's thus the edutainment aspect of it. And I became entertained. I worked as an accounting professor for 10 years at a small liberal arts college here in Columbus, Ohio. And my students would say he took a very boring subject and made it fun. That's the best compliment I could get.
That's right.
And then when I got into the professional side of teaching with professional education, I have to sit through these mind-numbing presentations, walk out 8 hours later and go, I'd rather watch grass grow. And out of that frustration comes a book. And it talks about, this is a book about storytelling. You're a storyteller. We're all storytellers.
Sure.
But how do we bring storytelling into our presentations? How do we not use PowerPoint as a crutch, but as a visual aid to make your point? And that's what this book is about. But the key piece here in all of this, it's not about you. This is all about your audience. Mm-hmm. How well do you know your audience? Because you have to just as you have to tailor your show to different audiences. When we deliver financial information, technical information, we have to deliver it in a manner that the other person can understand and act on. Mm-hmm. So it's all about understanding who that audience is.
That's great. That's great. That's great. All right. So I promised we would talk podcast. Boom! Look at that good graphic.
Wow, that's nice.
That looks good, man. Looks like you had a professional get behind you on that one. That's not only did you have a professional headshot done, it looks good. So I was on your show and we had a blast chatting, and I really appreciated it. Tell me what is the Change Your Mindset podcast?
Well, it originally started off as the same title as my first book, Improv is No Joke. And really Change Your Mindset still follows that mentality. We tend to veer different directions at times, mm-hmm. but in essence it's all about communication. How can I help my audience become better communicators? Mm-hmm. And I don't know this for a fact. I'm assuming this because I tend to focus my conversations around the financial services industries, around accounting and finance. So if that's my audience, I want to speak to them who are not known to be the most articulate, tend to be more introverted, but every business pretty much has a CFO or an accounting department, whether it's in the house or out of the house. And we have to be able to understand what the numbers are saying so we can react to the business. Goes back to the accidental accountant, when I said, well, there's a stereotype and we have to break it, and we're getting better at it. We still have a long way to go. And that's what the podcast is. It's I talked to yourself, Rick Roberts, comedian, a number of speakers, those who are in the profession, other authors, comedians, improvisers, but it all twirls around. But the real focus is, how can we become better communicators?
That's great. That's great. Yeah, that's funny. It's funny. So I'll just go ahead and apologize if sometimes I bounce around to different.
Oh, that's okay.
But it's funny. I had made a note right here, and I just saw the note, and it was. I don't know how it was hidden from me, since it's literally right in front of me, but it was hidden. So there was a quote that I got from you and your information, and it reminded me of a quote that I have heard. It's the exact same quote, but I wanted to share it with you to see if you'd ever heard this. The quote that I got from you is this: improvise the scene you are in, not the one you want to be in. Now, what I have heard from a lot of people that are entertainers and whatnot is, do the show in front of you, not the one in your head.
I think that's pretty much the same thing.
I like how I like the fact that we're basically saying the same thing, but kind of tweaking it based on, and that is, if I have to give myself any fault, sometimes I have in my head what I'm planning on doing, and it's hard to improvise sometimes. Are there any techniques for getting better at just going with the flow? Like when you're teaching, you teach workshops, right?
Right.
So if you're teaching a workshop for a group of people, and let's say you have a bunch of business people who are very just rigid, how do you get them to loosen up? How do you get them to go with the flow?
We start doing shots. That's about the only way.
It's a 10 a.m.
Actually, I have a number of those. And here's what I do. I over prepare. See, the thing about improv is we do over prepare.
Yeah.
Why you practice an improv? Yeah, you practice so you can't get it wrong, or you practice it so when things come up, you can adapt to it rather quickly. Okay. But when I enter that room, metaphorically, I wad up that script and throw it away.
Okay.
So I can react with the audience.
Okay. And you have the script, but you don't have to use it.
I've worked on it enough that when I walk in, I don't think about it. I know where I want to go, kind of where I want to go because of how I've outlined my slides and stuff.
Right.
But if things go down a path or two that, okay, let's play with this, let's go with this.
Yeah.
And then we'll end up circling back.
Yeah.
And getting and being engaging and entertaining and getting them involved in the conversation versus I don't want to be that person that I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to tell you that, I'm going to lecture to you. I'm more of a facilitator.
Okay.
I'm there to help facilitate a conversation. I don't do presentations. I want it to look as like we're having a conversation.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. It's a conversation that you happen to be an expert in.
Right. With an audience that they are an expert in what they do. And not realizing, especially if I'm talking improv to them, that they are all improvisers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's fun. That's fun watching that light bulb go. Got it.
Mm-hmm. So I will to everybody who's watching. We've got some folks watching online, and thank you for tuning in. Very much appreciate it. I can see the comments that you make. So if you have any comments, but specifically, if you have any questions that you would like to ask Peter about improvisation, about please don't ask him any tax questions. but although he's more than capable of answering them,
he'll be wrong.
That you go ahead and type those in, and on Facebook. If you're on Facebook and you have any questions, type those in, and they'll pop up on my feed, and I'll be able to I'll be able to relay those questions, and we can make this interactive so that the folks that are watching, you guys can be directly involved in the show. We want you to be directly involved in the show. So Peter, you know, the theme of this show is amazement and inspiration. That's sort of where I come from in my world. Those are the things that are important in my business to me. So I just want to throw a question out there to you. Do you have any stories? It can be from the business side. It could be a personal type thing. It could be something where you were doing a program for somebody. Do you have any stories of having to overcome adversity, or that have an inspirational theme to them?
Yes, I do. So when I was 42, and that wasn't a couple of years ago, but thank you for thinking about that. When I was 42, one day I had to have some blood work done, or whatever. The doctor called and basically told me that they think that I'm a diabetic.
Okay.
What? I not really knowing what a diabetic, the ramifications or anything of it, and being scared to death, and going to the doc, and yes, you are. My blood sugar was 250, where blood sugar should be around, 80 to 100, not even that, about 80 to 90. But I'm 42 years old, and I'm not a type 2 diabetic. A type 2 diabetic is insulin resistant, which means they typically tend to be obese or overweight, and the insulin can't get in. I'm a type 1 because I'm insulin dependent. So my pancreas has quit producing insulin.
Oh,
and it's an invisible disease, but I could have done one or two ways. Well, no, this is what I actually did say when people would ask me, God, how do you feel? You're type 1 diabetic. I feel great. It's better than having pancreatic cancer.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So that was kind of my improv approach to it. And as a diabetic, thank God I'm an improviser, because my blood sugar goes all over the place all the time.
Wow.
And even though I wear a pump, and not too many people can go and pull this. Say, look, I'm carrying my pancreas with me on my belt, but this keeps me alive. And some days I'm high. Some days I'm fighting lows. And I just accept the situation that's in and move forward, and try not to get down on it, and try not to get down on myself, and just fix the problem as best as I can.
Okay, so what? Yeah, I have okay. So hold on a second. This is really interesting. So I have I'm looking at the studio on my computer, and I have all these like controls that I'm looking at. That's not you cannot see this, Peter. You cannot see the controls that I'm saying. But what you just said, we just had a comment come in, and I'm going to bring it up. Roxanne Kaufman said this. She said, "How do you use yes and if the answer is clearly a no?" And I swear to you, it almost sounds like I mean, in a sort of a slightly roundabout way, you answer that question before I even posted it, but talking about what you're talking about.
Clearly, the answer in a diabetic is no. You have no insulin.
Right.
But even in a business setting, when the answer is no, ask the question differently.
Okay.
Take a different approach to it. And at some point, now let me back up for a second. No is an acceptable answer in the workplace, in my mind, under certain circumstances. Okay. If I'm being pushed across ethical boundaries, if I'm asking to do something I shouldn't be doing, if it's not the right time to have that conversation, because I'm going from one meeting to another meeting. No, not right now, but let's find another time. But everything other than that, I think you can say no in so many different ways. You can say yes, and case in point, gentleman shared with me that there was some budget money in his department, and he wanted to take his team of a large department. He wanted to take his team out to lunch to celebrate, and went to his boss and asked if he could get some of that money. His boss said, no, you can't, because it's really deemed for the entire department, not just you. So we were talking about, I said, isn't there a better way to say that? Jason, yes, I love that idea. Great idea. However, the money's really there for the entire department. So can you help me brainstorm something that we all can do, not just your team, to celebrate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's different ways of responding to a no. Mm-hmm. But there are, it is business, and there are times that no is acceptable.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you.
And thank you, Roxanne, for that question.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point. Very interesting. So, and I want to just take a minute and say thank you for your willingness to share. Like that's personal stuff. You're talking about being a diabetic. That's a personal thing, and so I really appreciate your willingness to open up on something like that, and how you deal with it, how you've dealt with it, and the fact that you're able to use your skills, your improv skills, and your life skills to deal with something that for a lot of people would be overwhelming. No question about it, and I'm sure there are days when it's still difficult. But thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And even though I've been a diabetic for a number of years, I still forget things at times when I travel. Mm-hmm. And I was on a recent trip where I had left my entire diabetes, insulin and things at home. I took a way too early flight, left it, and I started to panic, and I started breathe. I said, stop, breathe. There's a way to figure this out. Let's mm-hmm. figure this out. And it did. It cost me a little extra money, but I was able to get it done. I didn't panic.
That's fine. You know what? So you just reminded me of something that years ago I used to work backstage for a magic show, and we literally traveled all over the world. We went to a lot of interesting places, mm-hmm. and one of the things that I realized was that there was always an answer for something. You may be looking at a situation mm-hmm. that you're looking at going, there's no solution to this problem. But at some point, I just remember thinking to myself, no, there's always an answer. You might have to get creative in it to find the answer. But yeah, there's always an answer. Okay, let's see here. My mother said she thinks improv would be very difficult. Actually, performing would be difficult. Thank you for putting yourselves out there to entertain and inspire. Thank you very much for. Well, I now know one of the people who's watching. I know Roxanne is watching, and my mom is watching, and we appreciate you guys watching today's show.
That's right, because you met Roxanne at Influence last year.
Oh, I remember that. That's right. I do remember that we met at the dinner, I believe.
Right. Yes, we went to dinner that night. Yes.
Yeah, super nice. So that was all of the people that were around the table were all very nice. It was a really nice group of people. So let's see here. Looking at my notes and trying to see if there was anything in particular. All right, so what I'd like to do, we have a couple minutes here. Since my show is a combination of both inspiration and amazement, we'll share a moment of amazement. I recently found some video clips of a performance that I did at a house party, and you're an entertainer at heart too, and I know that you like magic.
Oh, yes.
So this is a very short video clip, but I wanted to show a very short video clip so that we can get a moment and get a moment of amazement. And the thing that you should pay specific attention to is how people react, because that is where the real magic behind this type of thing goes. So just setting this up, this is a real quick video clip for you guys to enjoy. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Somebody told me that said that we didn't get sound. It looked like there may have been a small little bit of a glitch there. So let me redo that real quickly. I apologize. I know exactly why that was. I'm gonna do this one more time, and I apologize. And I hate that people uh, that you were watching that and you missed it. So here we go. Here one more time. All right.
I'm going to ask you to select a card, but I want you to pick a number card, okay? Don't pick a picture card, and I'll explain why in just a second. And this is going to be something that I can see, everybody can see. We will all participate. It is completely up to you. Which one are you going to go with? The 4? All right. Show it all the way around. Everybody will get a peek at it. Once you're done, I will take the pin. Ah, very good. I like that. I'll take the pin. Actually, you just show the card around. Make sure everybody knows what it looks like. All right, now.
I'm doing the pin back ball.
All right. So we've got the 4 of hearts. We have your writing on it. You guys got it? You'll be able to identify this in just a moment. So we'll take this card, the 4. I'm going to place it right about.
Go.
Boom! When you said go, just like a lightning bolt. Just like a lightning bolt, the card that you saw go in the middle of the deck, that card jumps out of the middle of the deck all the way back to the top of the deck. Now, it's funny because when people see this, the first time it's usually like they you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
There's sort of a surprise moment. It kind of usually a stunned silence. That was it. Right? So I've learned that you have to do this more than once. The second time, this is way more impressive because the second time, you know where we're headed with this. The second time, you're looking at all the details that you could have missed the first time. Hope, whenever you're ready, say go.
Go.
Boom, just like a bee sting, your card jumps out of the deck all the way. The deck. So before we go any further, Hope, you're writing on your card. That is yours, yes? Mm-hmm. So as long as we all know where the card is, we're good.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Hope, here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to show it to you again. I don't want you to have any question. You can see your writing on the 4. No doubt about it. So watch very close. I'm going to lose it in this pack and dump all of these into the middle of this pack. So here's the situation. Not your card.
Not my card.
Just wanted to check. Hope. Not your card.
No.
All right, Hope, here we go. Watch super close. I'll do it slow. Watch just like this. That's pretty much all it takes. That's one that all the way. Now you mark the card. You made it easy to follow from the one side. I will also mark the card. I will not write on it because you've already done that, but I will mark it. I'm marking it by literally bending it in half. So from the one side, it has your writing on it. It has your name. From the other side, do you see the giant bend in the back of the card? I want you to watch real close. There's the giant bend right in the back of the card. Here we go. Watch it super close. You might see it happen. It's just a tiny little shake. When I give it a tiny little shake, that card jumps out of the deck right about now. Watch for it.
No.
See it? There's the bend in the back of the card. There's the writing on the face of the card. Here is Hope's card.
All right, Peter, how was my improvisation there?
Wow.
That's why I love close-up magic. So I love being on stage, but when I first fell in love with magic when I was 16 years old, and I will, getting this to your world, kind of relating this to your world. One of the hardest parts about doing what you just saw there, that sort of interactive with people, is the fact that you can't control what other people are going to do. And it can be very, so I know a lot of people who love card tricks. I know a lot of people who love to do that type of thing. What is really the thing that makes you a really good magician is not being able to do the card trick. It's being able to make the people feel like they're having a unique moment, kind of let them shine. So are they watching my card trick? Well, of course, everybody understands that I'm the one performing, but the real magic is watching their reactions and letting them have this unique experience that they may or may not ever have again. And so that's one of the reasons I love, I think that's probably the reason I love doing close-up magic as much as I do is probably the same reason you love doing improv.
Absolutely. I love it when they get it. I love it when they use it. I went to my my knee surgery, the guy who did surgery on my knee a few years ago. I was having some issues with it, and I walked into when he walked into the examination room and goes, "Just thinking about you yesterday. I was in the situation, and they were doing yes, but no, because, and they weren't yes anding." I gave him my book like 2 or 3 years prior to that.
It's funny.
And we had this wonderful conversation about it, and it's stuck in his head with all that other medical stuff. Yes, and is still floating around there.
It's really cool.
I've had partners in CPA firms go, we were stuck in a meeting. We're trying to come up with an idea. We instituted yes, and we solved the problem.
That's awesome.
It is.
That's fantastic.
That's the power of improv. When you can walk into a room to solve a problem, and everybody comes up, we say, bring a brick, don't bring the cathedral. as well as bad ideas are bridges to good ideas. No ideas lead to nothing. So if you come in with just ideas and you want ideas, and you give the room enough latitude and longitude to give you crazy ideas. We're not going to execute to the crazy idea, but now you've given me bandwidth that I'll come back here in the middle and solve that problem for you. Yeah. If you keep giving me these safe ideas, it's going to take a lot longer to solve the problem.
Yeah, that's great. And that's yes and.
That's just it. And before we move forward, you did a nice little piece of improvisation just a few moments ago, my friend. And I'm not talking about what you were doing in the movie.
Are you talking about the technical glitch?
The technical glitch. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. I know what you're saying.
But I was doing a presentation, and it was this big LCD projector, and the bulb went out.
Oh, geez.
Some people could possibly lose their mind. I went, oh, it's dead. Can you get AV in here to get? Oh, by the way, it's so big, we may need a few pallbearers to get this thing out.
Oh, it was one of those giant projectors?
Oh, yeah, one of those giant. But I kept the program moving. I accepted what happened.
Yeah.
We're going to solve that problem. Yeah. I'm going to stay on time. And you did a good job of it just now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we're starting to we're coming towards the top of the hour, so we're going to start to wrap up. I want to do something that I try to do. I don't get to it in every Jason Michaels TV episode, but I want to get to it today because I think we have enough time. As you know, I speak on the topic of resilience, and I want to do and today I want to do 3 minutes on resilience and gratitude. Now, resilience is obviously, we've talked about this in the past, it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It is a mental toughness. One way to develop resilience is through developing gratitude. What is gratitude? Gratitude is giving thanks for what we already have. It is basically celebrating the gifts of life. Now, there are three ways that I want to specifically talk about on ways to develop gratitude. So number one is to take pleasure in life. Number two is to feel successful. Number three is to be happy for others. So when we're talking about taking pleasure in life, the idea here is to take pleasure for the simple things. You can take pleasure in the grandiose things, certainly, but so often we don't stop and take a moment to just smell the roses, be happy that we're breathing, look at the things that give us joy, and take pleasure in these moments of life. So when life is difficult, when you're frustrated because you're sitting on the couch still and COVID has got us all locked up, one of the ways we can become more gracious and develop gratitude is to take pleasure in life. The second way is to feel successful. Basically, feeling successful by meeting goals. Now that goal again can be extremely simple. It can be as simple as getting out of the bed and having your morning coffee. So it is literally as simple as that. Number one, take pleasure in life. Number two, feel successful, because small goals ultimately get us to larger goals. And the third one, being happy for others. It's kind of what's funny is the very first lesson I talked on resilience was on compassion. And this almost goes back to that compassion again, being compassionate towards others by feeling happy for them, feeling happy for their wins, feeling happy for the things that are going well in their life, because by feeling happy for others, it opens up our own hearts and it connects us with other people. And the simple fact is that early in my life, because I'm a very competitive person, I felt like I always had to win, and I hated it when other people won, because that meant that in my mind, I thought that I wasn't being as successful as I should be. But the simple truth is most things in life are win-win. Everybody can win. The last thought on this is that the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit can almost make it so that it can't be grasped. It's like it just disappears into the ether. But with gratitude, by developing gratitude through taking pleasure, feeling successful, and being happy for others, we can feel good already. We don't have to chase feeling good. We don't have to chase happiness, because we can feel good for basically being alive. And that was 3 minutes on gratitude. Any thoughts?
That was good. That was good. That was really, really good. I like that 3 minutes.
I mean, what you were talking about, basically, I would imagine that dealing with the diabetic, the type 1,
mm-hmm.
I would imagine that you may have some tough days, but by do you ever find yourself using any of those techniques? Did any of that speak to you where you thought to yourself, I've done that. I've literally just on a bad day, I've thought to myself, you know what? I'm happy to be above the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not to let it. I try not to let it get me down. And 99.9% of the time, I've been very good at doing that. Every now and then, I'll feel that slippery slope start, and I'll stop myself. And it's like, what? There's a lot of other things I could have that are worse than this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a happy. I'll look at it a different way. Gratitude. I'm helping the Central Ohio Diabetes Association. I'm on their digital marketing. I'm volunteering, helping them out so they can help grow, fundraise, and put these programs on for kids. And if that's all I can do, and the gratitude, try to help, so be it. But I'm doing that. I'm doing that.
You know what? Because what is that? People in our business, that's what we do. We connect other people. We help people that need a microphone or a megaphone. We help give them that megaphone, and we lend the skills that we have to other people to make them laugh, to help them get the word out, to give them an escape from the difficulties of life. It's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. It's great. So we're going to wrap it up. Was there anything else that you wanted to throw out there, Ennis?
I'll leave you with this. We've already mentioned this, but I'll repeat it again.
Okay.
In this day and age that we're in right now with COVID-19, improvise the scene that you are in, not the one you want it to be in. Focus on things that you have control over, and don't focus on things that you don't have control over. Because we focus on things that we don't have control over. It makes us crazy. We get depressed. Focus on the present, and we'll get through this A-okay.
That is outstanding. Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Well, as we wrap up, I will mention that I am doing a free resilience training for organizations, associations, groups, educational groups, companies that have been affected by COVID-19. It is a 30-minute live streamed online training. And if you have any interest in that, please send me an email. You can email me at jm@jasonmichaelsmagic.com. What did we learn from today's episode? What are our takeaways? We met the accidental accountant, Peter Margaritis. We chatted about how improv can be a leadership approach and a lifestyle approach as well. We learned about Peter's podcast, Change Your Mindset, learned about his books, both Improv is No Joke and Taking the Numb Out of Numbers, and we discussed gratitude and how it helps us develop resilience. I very much appreciate you guys participating in the show, asking questions. If you have enjoyed this, we'll be back again probably this time next week. If you want to receive an email from me ahead of time with details about the show, you can sign up right there, jasonmichaelsmagic.com/JM TV. Let me know. Leave me a comment in the comments right here. You can tell me what you thought of the episode. You are also welcome to send me an email to jm@jasonmichaelsmagic.com. This has been Jason Michaels Television. You guys have a great weekend. Have a great next week. We'll see you soon.